You're listening to a podcast of Reelblack Radio with Mike D and Steph Renee. Fridays 11 a.m. till noon on 900 AM WURD and 900 AM WURD.com. The views and opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any show on 900 AM WURD do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station.
Lights, camera, action, it's on. New black film revolution born. Movers, shakers, big and little filmmakers. Let's make a movie today, see where it take us. Halle Berry, Denzel, and Jamie. Terrence Starr with Mike D and Spike Lee. Brand new filmmaker born every day. Put a camera in his hand and let him lead the way. Let me get an Oscar, let me get an Emmy. Reelblack woke up the filmmaker in me. Whether digital, 8mm, 35. Let's make the movies that can open their eyes. Let's tell the stories that need to be told. Make them laugh, make them cry, for the young, for the old. Come on, let's shake it, make it, and make movies. Reelblack, I really like the way you do me. Be black, baby, be black, be black, baby, be black, be black, baby, be black. Join the crowd. Reelblack, keeping the movie stacked. Give you quality and make it keep coming back. Whether you're large or you're independent. Reelblack, the Philly film establishment. Quiet, speeding, rolling, action. Making movies in Philly the main attraction. Cut, no, this to end for me. But if I don't see you later, then I see you in the movies.
Hey, this is Mike. I'm rolling solo. Well, Troy's here. Welcome back. You weren't there last week. Nope. But welcome to Reelblack Radio on the Mojo. And we have a lot to talk about. I asked for a little help. We'll jump right in. With us on the line is my good friend Charles Woods, a.k.a. The Professor. How are you doing today?
Hi, Mike. A little under the weather, but you know, anytime you ask me to do something, if I can, I'm there for you. Yeah,
you're starting to get a little scratchy throat. When I saw you earlier this week, we went movie hunting up in Princeton, which was really fun. Great place, Princeton Record Exchange. I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm not sure if we're going to put that video up. I just went buck wild and crazy buying up used videos, so...
Yeah, you can open up your own shop.
I could definitely, and also for folks who can't make it into Princeton who are still collecting DVDs, Movie Stop just closed, so I scooped up a bunch of things there. There's still one Movie Stop open in Blackwood, New Jersey, and they have a really huge selection. A lot of stuff is selling for $1 or $2, so shout out to Movie Stop. Also, I wanted to shout out Faison Love, who's in Philadelphia as we speak. You know Faison, right? Big Worm
Faison
from Friday, and
I know Faison from my brother, whom I call my brother, Barry Berry.
Mm-hmm.
Barry worked with Robert Townsend on the show. Faison was a part of Parenthood.
Yes, the Parenthood. And he also was in The Big House with Kevin Hart, just a veteran stand-up comedian actor. He's in town performing at Helium Comedy Club, 20th and Sansom Street. If you can get down there, it's well worth the money to go check him out. And then also afterwards, we did an interview. Normally, after a show, we talk to a comedian. We're lucky to get 10 or 15 minutes. Faison sat with us for an hour and 23 minutes. You know, and he just has a really sharp brother, a lot of opinions. So
one thing I love about Faison, he's very candid. You know, he's not a
he does not bite his tongue.
Yeah.
So he's very candid about Hollywood, working in Hollywood, the system. It's got Tupac stories, all that stuff. So can't wait to share that. And I guess white supremacy is in the news once again.
You know what? I didn't know if we'd get to touch on that, but white supremacy and race is so out there. I mean, you finish your point. I just wanted to see if I could.
Three new movies open this week. The Purge, Election Year, which I didn't get a chance to see, and BFG, The Big Friendly Giant, which is a Steven Spielberg thing. And then the movie that we talked about on the podcast, Reelblack does a podcast with Charles from time to time, and we touched on this a few months ago. The Tarzan remake, Legend of Tarzan, comes out today. So and Reelblack members did get a chance to see that. So
Now, you did see that. You told me you saw it.
Yeah, we there was a screening. If we hadn't had that conversation, I'm not sure how I would have read the film, because I was looking for the technology a little bit, but general audience seemed to really be entertained by the movie and enjoy it. It's not getting the best reviews, which I'm kind of happy about. I think most people are looking at it and saying, well, Tarzan's such a it's from like the last century, and fundamentally it the whole concept of Tarzan reinforces a white supremacist ideal.
And we had someone contact us responding to our podcast who said he was going to initiate a movement to try to have that thing not be a success at the box office.
Yeah, he wanted to start a hashtag, let Tarzan bomb or something. I'll see if I can pull that up while we're talking. But I mean, so speaking from your generation, I mean, and folks who are listening, I mean, it may be obvious to a lot of folks, but what in terms of film history and the character of Tarzan, I mean, why is it so offensive? Why does it bother so many people? Why are people sensitive about it?
Well, I mean, what's interesting, did you see the New York Times review of Tarzan?
I saw Miley Eichel's review in the Philadelphia Daily News, which was pretty much spot on to what I would say.
Okay, the New York Times review is interesting because they point out that Sam Jackson's character is based on a real person.
Based on, George Washington Williams, who actually went over to the Congo in the late 1890s and met with King Leopold and was so upset by what he saw, the treatment of blacks, that he wrote an open letter to King Leopold, which was the first thing to make people aware of what was going on over there.
Yes, and so that begs the question, why we can't get more of his story, but we get the white hero story, and that's always the thing in film.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, one of the things that I noticed about the Tarzan movie, it's sort of, in some ways, by including a little of the real history or whatever, they're trying, it's sort of like Django Unchained on a certain level in the fact that they're taking this fantasy and trying to create an adventure that rewrites history. Most people are aware that Leopold was a horrible tyrant and, in the process of mining rubber out of the Congo, was responsible for, millions of deaths of Congolese people. So, in this Tarzan movie, they're trying to, I guess, make Tarzan the hero, to, sort of abolish or destroy what his empire was going to be about, which is, in real life is not true, but I guess it provides some catharsis for the audience, or at least gives them an adventure. And Sam Jackson is there as a co-signer, but he's never really an integral part of the action. Tarzan is the one who fights everybody, who swings through the trees. I mean, there's a shot in the movie where Sam Jackson is going to swing on a vine, and his vine breaks. So Tarzan says, "Get on my back," and then you get the thrill of swinging around with on Tarzan's back. So. Yeah,
but what they do with film is, as I said, it's an ideology, and the way they do film is the technology is they want to make the white hero. They want to make him as noble as possible. Mm-hmm. Stand Up and Fight, as I told you, there's a Robert Taylor film, mm-hmm. and he has to sell the slaves in order to get some money because he had no money, and the only way he could get some money, they told him, you got to sell everything on your plantation, sell your slaves. So to make him noble, he says, do not break up the family, because they're telling them if you sell them individually, you get more money. But he says, you do not break up the family. So that makes him more noble. Mm-hmm. And so if we have Tarzan now fighting for the cause of enslaved blacks, that makes him more noble. These are the things they do to really promote this illusion of inclusion, this brotherhood that's so important for this message they want to get out there. But the whole thing is, it's a message that seems to resonate in film, but when you look at the reality, what's going on in real life, you wonder who's missing the point. And that's what's going on now. And there's so many things that's swirling around in the environment that has to do with race. And film, they just continue the same thing. You know, we talked about Free State of Jones, same thing. And now you have Tarzan. But, you know, the thing with Tarzan, to answer your question, Tarzan since 1912, Edgar Rice Burroughs, you have this beautiful, mythic, white person that now women can fantasize over, and we can have this mythic personality that can help promote white supremacy.
Yes, and they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to do this, and hundreds of millions of dollars to advertise and promote this stuff. But yeah, it's problematic because at the foundation, it is a pure fantasy of a white guy who basically, not only does he talk to animals and communicates with animals, but he kind of is the god of all the natives there. He's so.
You know what came to my mind? It's ironic, and I think I don't know if I mentioned this to you earlier, Mike. Remember the little black baby that was threatened by the gorilla?
Yeah, a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Right. And they shot the gorilla. You had some people upset they shot a gorilla.
Yeah.
But in defense, the rationale for shooting the gorilla was that a gorilla is so powerful it could crush that baby's head in a matter of seconds with just one little squeeze. Yet, Tarzan is based on the myth of what? A little white baby being raised by gorillas.
Yeah, and the scenes with the gorillas. I mean, one of my comments was that they spend more time building up the characters of the different animals than they do some of the native characters in the movie. So, but Djimon Hounsou's in it. Well, I don't want to spoil it. We'll have to revisit Tarzan after you've had a chance to see it, and we can really break it down. See through all the tricks in it. But they're saying it'll be number 2 at the box office. But yeah, again, it's very problematic in that in 2016, anyone would even feel the need to remake a Tarzan. And it just seems like they did certain things, like they got Craig Brewer, white guy, who did Hustle and Flow and Black Snake Moon. He's one of the credited screenwriters. They tried to humanize and make friendly the native characters, but then you also have Djimon Hounsou's character, who is the villain, so to speak, the secondary villain, who basically has such a thing where he wants vengeance against Tarzan that he's really willing to sell out his whole village, his whole tribe, just to get vengeance on this one guy. So not seeing the real evil, which is represented by Christoph Waltz.
You know what's interesting with Hounsou? As I told you, I just read some biographical notes on him, and he's someone who said, I make every effort as an actor where I want to diminish this image of blacks in loincloths and this image of the blacks we see in these Tarzan films. And, my initial disappointment with Tarzan was the fact that we're going to have Sam Jackson in the film. Then we see Hounsou's in it.
Right.
So the whole thing comes to sort of stuff like you hear from Baba Dick, where the reason why he's so opposed to a lot of football players and entertainers, because he says they just, from his perspective, he feels they're sellout.
Well, I mean, I've been watching some of Djimon's interviews. They do press junkets, and you can watch a string of them on YouTube. And he's making efforts to say, like, look, until, I mean, he really wants to service Africa, and I think he saw an opportunity in the role, to work with the director who did Harry Potter before that. I'm not really sure what the connection is there. And also, but he's very much about empowerment, and he's saying, like, white folks or Americans and Europeans basically control the most powerful medium, which is the camera, and it's not really going to change until people in Africa have access to cameras and are telling their own stories. So I think he's very aware, but then at the same time, you do question why he would want to be involved, but I guess that's the actor's dilemma, so to speak. So,
and that's why the conversation we're having now, preceding your guest, makes talking to your guest so interesting, because here's someone, Kevin Willmott, who is attempting to present, different images of blacks, and I'd love to hear, his take on how difficult it is and why he's making the kind of films he's making and the difficulty he faces in doing so.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great conversation. That'll be on our next segment. In Free State of Jones, I mean, you didn't get a chance to see it yet, but... No,
as I said, I didn't even know if I'd be able to make that trip with you to lovely out there, but I've been sick lately, but I wanted to see it. But two things. You're seeing it with the people who come down to see it. Mm-hmm. What was the reaction to Tarzan and Free State of Jones with the crowd you saw it with?
Well, I think most people were entertained. There were a few things that happened that were just completely unrealistic in the Tarzan movie. Everybody said that would never happen. Mostly in the first sequence, it's a very typical action thing where, it's a great opening sequence. You see all these black warriors, and they're just picking off these Belgian soldiers one by one. But then they get to the last guy, and he's holding a rosary with a cross, and they're afraid, they don't want to kill him. It's like he has some extra power that I wouldn't, that kind of shocks him or whatever. And everybody said, well, that would never happen. And you see typical things in action films where, you have a gang of people, but then they'll take the person on one by one at a time. So that's an old cliche. So things like that, I think the audience tuned out of, but I think overall the idea worked. Let's put Sam Jackson in there, and then folks will be entertained by it. He's the comic relief. So, Free State of Jones, I think there was mixed reactions. Some people really liked it. They liked the history. They liked seeing depictions of antebellum slavery. They liked the overall story. But then some people felt misled. Yvonne, who works with me, she felt misled because she thought the trailer was really... She thought the story was going to be about a white man who helps facilitate a slave rebellion. And really it's about a very selfish, self-oriented person who sees inequality between the haves and the have-nots, and basically says, I want to break free of the Union. So Free State of Jones, I think, talks more in terms of like a general audience. It's like appealing to the sort of people that are opposed to the 1%, as opposed to people that are aligning it for social equality among the races. So.
And that's a very, very hot topic today. We look at what happened with the Brexit vote, and how in the news right now they're talking about the people who are in charge. If they don't wake up and respect the little man, you may have a movement of people wanting to just break away from anything that has the power elites running stuff, because the little man is not getting their fair share.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good point. We're up against the break, but we'll be right back with more Reelblack Radio on the Mojo after this.
You're listening to 900 AM WURD and 900 AM WURD.com. Progressive and proud, Black Talk Media.
So we're back, Reelblack Radio on the Mojo, and with us for the hour is my special co-host, Charles Woods, a.k.a. The Professor. And if you want to join in on the conversation, the local numbers are 215-634-8065, toll-free 1-866-361-0900. And on Twitter, it's at 900 AM WURD, or at Reelblack. That's REELBLACK. So, while we're waiting for our next guest, did you have a chance to? Are you following the big controversy this past week? Was the BET Awards? Well, it turned into a controversy with Jesse Williams's acceptance speech.
I think we were out that day, or I don't. But the next morning, Mike, my wife comes in. And she says, honey, oh, my goodness, you should have heard this speech Jesse Williams gave. And she's trying to let me know who Jesse was. I said, yeah, I know the name, I know. She said, oh, it was crazy. He was so right on. Then this morning, Barry called, and he says, man, that brother was right on. So I'm sorry I missed it.
Well, we have an excerpt, for those who missed it, so we can get into this. So Jesse Williams got the humanitarian awards at the BET Awards. BET is stepping up their game. It was a really entertaining show. I think they need to hire better comedy writers. I didn't laugh once at some of that stuff that they were pushing. But as far as the music and the performances and just people showing up to accept their awards, they've come a long way. BET Awards. But Jesse Williams from Grey's Anatomy, he's been an outspoken activist, just in the Black Lives Matter movement, and he's very conscious brother. Here's excerpt from his speech.
This award, this is not for me. This is for the real organizers all over the country, the activists, the civil rights attorneys, the struggling parents, the families, the teachers, the students that are realizing that a system built to divide and impoverish and destroy us cannot stand if we do. All right? It's kind of basic mathematics. The more we learn about who we are and how we got here, the more we will mobilize. Now, this is also in particular for the black women, in particular, who have spent their lifetimes dedicated to nurturing everyone before themselves. We can and will do better for you. Now, what we've been doing is looking at the data, and we know that police somehow manage to de-escalate, disarm, and not kill white people every day. So what's going to happen is we are going to have equal rights and justice in our own country, or we will restructure their function and ours. Now, I got more, y'all. Yesterday would have been young Tamir Rice's 14th birthday. So I don't want to hear any more about how far we've come when paid public servants can pull a drive-by on a 12-year-old playing alone in a park in broad daylight, killing him on television, and then going home to make a sandwich. Tell Rakia Boyd 2012 and it is to live in 1612 or 1712.
You don't always get that at the BET Awards.
No. Are they dressing like, they're coming to some place that's a little more formal, what used to bug me is these guys are cuss, and everything else, and first thing come out their mouth.
I want to thank
God. It just kills me. But I hope they're showing some more class. But the thing is, for someone to speak truth to power, it's very dangerous. And for an artist to do this, he's taking a big chance, and I commend him for it. Mm-hmm. I mean, look what happened when Tarantino said more or less the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a backlash on Twitter. I mean, just for just as many people that shared the speech on Facebook and Twitter and created memes just saying, like, my hero, amen. There were a lot of people that just couldn't take it. The racism is always there bubbling under. People feel threatened when folks just speak up and take pride or take a stand for black identity.
I mean, look at these policemen they didn't go before their peers as a jury trial. They went for a bench trial. And they were acquitted in the death of this black man who was killed in the back of the police van.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, there's a movie a couple decades ago almost, The Glass Shield, which was inspired by the Rampart police case, so, it's been going on for the longest. They're going to protect their own. It's just now that there's cameras, there's social media as a means to communicate, and it's become a social issue. So. And
you saw the movement that they were protesting because of the technology that people have in their hands to capture stuff like this. They were saying they can't do their job anymore.
Yeah, they don't want to be filmed.
Yeah.
Don't film me when I'm at work.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes back to the Black Panthers, in the sense that they said, like, we have every right to watch what you're doing, and we have every right to stand here with guns, and they found ways to dismantle that. And now a lot of people are being discredited that are part of the Black Lives Matter movement. So we're at a very interesting time and place in our culture. Later on this year, we'll see the Tupac movie. We'll see Nat Turner.
What people have to understand is historically, where these kind of threats against minority groups, against the so-called other, where the others can face the most harm is whenever you have an economic situation where certain people do not feel they're making it. When the economy is bad and people are feeling it, that's when these kind of emotions rise to the top. And we have to be very concerned about that. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but when you look at someone like a Trump, to have he's the nominee for the GOP, that's scary.
Oh, extremely so, yeah. Yeah, they want folks to, stay drugged, stay medicated, stay on television.
I'll give you one quick point. We have in the New York News yesterday's cover, 1%. They found they did the poll. 1% they find Trump is only popular with 1% of the black. I'd like for you to help me. One day we like to go movie hunting, but I want to go hunting for who that 1% is. Maybe that's the Williamson.
Ben Carson. Vice President Carson. But with us on the line, we have Alexander from North Philly to chime in. Hey, Alexander.
How you doing, Mr. Dennis? How you doing?
Oh, hey, I know you.
Yeah, man. Mr. I forget your name. You the guy that wrote Chi-raq. I got the email, text message.
Yeah, he's not on yet.
Okay.
You want to hold your call? He'll be on in a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. All right. Hang on. Yeah.
We all look alike.
Okay. Well, you could have fronted. But yeah. Oh, so you're 1%. But they just want folks to stay asleep and promote certain ideas and images. And it's a shame. My experience in seeing Tarzan, I saw it the same day. I saw a nice small film. I can't really review it yet, called South Side with You, which is about the first date of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, and played Sundance. But as I said, more people will see Tarzan the first night than we'll ever have a chance to see Southside with You. So,
the thing is, you look at the response President Obama received in Canada. Did you see that, where they were saying
4 more years? Yeah.
Outside of this country, people are more civic minded more politically involved, they know what this man has done for this country in the face of the obstacles he's had to face. And we're going to miss someone as classy as he is, and his wife. And for the image of black people, God bless him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a very prescient point that we were talking about Barack Obama because, he plays the idea of the first black president plays a very prominent role in a new movie that both you and I had a chance to see called Destination Planet Negro. And right now it's available. It just was released in the last month on iTunes and Amazon Video, all the places for video on demand. It's probably on your local cable system as an on-demand choice. And, it's a great independent film. And with us on the line is its writer, producer, director, and co-star, Mr. Kevin Willmott.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, it's great to hear you. I think we spoke when Confederate States was out, or we did some email interaction. One of our viewers on our YouTube channel said, "Hey, we really want Charles, who's on the line with us, to talk about Destination Planet Negro." I was like, "What is this movie?" And I found out it was from you. I was like, "Wow, I can't wait to see this." And I was not disappointed. Your movie blows me away.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Yes, I mean, so for those who are not familiar yet with Destination Planet Negro, how would you synopsize it?
Well, it's a kind of a satire, what it starts out in 1939. All the major black leaders have gotten together to try to solve the Negro problem, and they're looking at maybe going back to Africa. Maybe we should go to Europe, become expatriates. What's the right solution? And the conclusion they come to is that we should go to Mars. And George Washington Carver creates a rocket fuel with a peanut and a sweet potato, and three astronauts take off to colonize Mars, but then they go through some kind of time warp, and they end up here today with a black president. And so then the whole issue kind of becomes how far have we still need to go?
Well, exactly. Well, that is the question at hand. But it's so fun. I mean, the first thing that hit me, a lot of times when I talk to people about black films and what's missing from the black film language or vernacular, is like we never get to see black sci-fi. Where's the Afrofuturism in relation to film? And then, your movie just like, I was like, it's here.
Well, I really appreciate that. I agree with you. I think, I'm a sci-fi fan. I'm not a sci-fi. I don't think I consider myself a sci-fi geek, but I like sci-fi that really, talks about things that, as a vehicle to kind of really, go places. And that's sci-fi I love. And I agree with you. I think a lot of times, things that are supposed to be kind of like black sci-fi, they oftentimes don't really deal with black issues, and that was something that was really, central to wanting to make the film, was to really, find a sci-fi vehicle that really kind of enabled us to explore things that we should talk about.
Yeah, Charles.
Willmott.
Yes, how you doing?
First of all, let me just say I'm so impressed with your work, because incorporated in what you do is a lot of history. I see you love history.
Yes.
And sci-fi, back in the day, sci-fi was a way they told the stories of the threat of the communist invasion. That was a veiled way they covered that. But the thing is,
invasion of the body snatchers. That's
yes,
right.
You deal with satire. Now, you used the word satire. Because I was going to say, what I noticed, you love satire, and my brother, who's in the business, he feels satire is something that doesn't work well with the black audience, or maybe many audiences, they don't get satire. He feels Fear of a Black Hat may have failed because people didn't get it.
Right.
But I think you use satire because there's, in your Confederate States of America, you quote George Bernard Shaw. And you talk about, if you're going to deal with the truth, you better make people laugh. Your comment.
That's right. Yeah, well, I think that's the deal. Yeah, that's exactly it. And, satire enables you to kind of go there, too. You know,
Yes.
in a drama or, other genres, it's hard to go there without, really go and deal with the issues without it being preachy, And there's people that probably say my movies are preachy, but I just think that's because they're not interested in what I'm talking about.
You know what's interesting? The fact that you're dealing with a subject matter that may be very difficult to be palatable any other way. You think
Exactly.
Let's look at the black comedian back in the day when they had to talk about, like we don't serve ends here. Well, that's okay.
Right.
I don't eat them.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that was a big influence. I mean, Richard Pryor I was obsessed with Richard Pryor as a kid, and he was the one that, there was always truth behind his joke quite often.
Yes.
And that's always been the criteria for me to kind of, with the films I try to make, I want to entertain folks. I want to make them laugh, but I also want them, to reveal some truth in the joke, in the humor as well. I wouldn't really call it a joke, but in the humor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you do it very well. I commend you. Thank you.
Well, Kevin, can you stay with us for another segment? I would love to talk about Kansas City and Confederate States and more about Destination Planet. Take our call from Alexander when we get back.
That sounds great.
All right, so you're listening to Reelblack Radio on the Mojo on WURD AM, and we'll be right back after these messages. Hey, so that was Frank McComb live at the bitter end, remembering Donny Hathaway. And, Frank was just here in Philly, and the album's great, so I just wanted to share some of that. With us on the line, we have Charles Woods, who is my co-host for the hour, as well as writer, producer, director, actor, professor, Kevin Willmott. We were talking about your latest film, Destination Planet Negro, but with us on the line is Alexander still there? I wanted to make sure we got him on. Hey, Alexander.
Hey, Mr. Dennis, how you doing, man? When you on the show, I was trying to support. I heard about Planet Negro. That sounds impressive and daring and brave. But were you the one that did the Chi-raq, the writer behind Chi-raq?
I was the writer behind. Yeah, I wrote that with Spike.
Okay, listen, man, I respect that, man. You know what I mean? I respect what you did with that movie. It's somewhat comedic, but you told a story about what's really going on Chicago, and I respect you for that.
Thank you, brother.
Cool.
Yeah, well, talk about working with Spike on Chi-raq. Now, I noticed Confederate States, Spike Lee was listed. Thank you, Alexander, for calling.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you worked with Spike before on Confederate States, and then I guess it manifested to Chi-raq. How did that relationship come about?
Yeah, well, I made Confederate States. It's kind of a typical Hollywood story here. So I made the film. Spike wasn't involved in that. I made the film and I sent it to my agent, and he said, "What do you want me to do with this?" And so the next week I got into Sundance. He said, "Kevin, you're a genius." And that's all you need to know about Hollywood is that they, the old term is they don't know anything until somebody tells them. And so Spike heard about the film and wanted to check it out. The agent sent it to him, and he really liked it. And he presents the film. So C.S.A. is presented by Spike. And then he asked me if I had any other scripts, and I had at that time, the script that became Chi-raq was called Gotta Give It Up. And so we tried to get it made, that was like almost 15 years ago.
Wow.
And couldn't get it made back then. And so he called me about 2 years ago and said, "Do you still have that script?" And I said, yeah, I still have it. And he said, "Well..."
You still with us? Kevin? Okay, well, we had a... Kevin's disappeared from us, but, Charles, are you still there?
When I saw Confederate States of America, I immediately thought of this book that was rewritten. It was written. It was supposed to be another take on Gone with the Wind.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when that came out. Yeah,
but that film, Confederate States of America, I want to say to Kevin, what was scary about it is if you tuned in, let's say, if you didn't know a lot about history, you would think you're watching a lot of what actually happened the way it was done. It reminded me of like a Hidden Colors.
Yeah, it's sort of it's available on demand. People can rent it as a streaming product, but the DVD goes for quite a bit of money right now. But yeah, it's sort of a mockumentary, a pseudo documentary of it done in a Ken Burns fashion, mixed with satirical commercials of what would have happened if the Confederacy had won instead of the Union during the Civil War. What America would look like, and how history how the course of history would have been changed. So you're back with us, Cal?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So yeah, we're just filling in. Now this thing is a cult classic. I mean, you can't get a copy of the DVD on Amazon for less than $30. It's like, we need it back in print. But
yes, we do.
But Rack, more specifically in terms of
and so we rewrote it and set it in Chicago and really embraced the Chicago problem, and it was just an amazing experience. I mean, the problem in Chicago is the problem in every major city. Just Chicago happens to be, I guess, the worst place right now, but it's happening here in Kansas City. I know it happens there in Philly. It's an American problem, and so we try to do something that could entertain and at the same time send a message of trying to deal with solutions to the problem. I mean, I think the real challenge of making a film about the gun violence in the hood is that guys like to really kind of, when I say guys, I mean guys from the neighborhood. They like to really, oftentimes you have to be very careful not to end up kind of romanticizing that whole world. And because I think it's like the best example is the whole Scarface thing. How Scarface gets shot 9,000 times at the end of the film, but every drug dealer in the country had a Scarface poster in his house.
Yes.
And so they don't see how he ends up being killed in the end of the film. They see all the stuff he does to other people, and so there's a real kind of they divorce themselves from the other message of the film because the gun violence in the film is so cool, and the violence of the film is so cool especially to young men. And so we try to make a film that wasn't about that at all, but really dealt with that didn't give the audience a lot of gun violence and a lot of things that I think young people can romanticize in various ways
to glamorize it or what have you.
I'd like to ask Kevin a question.
Yeah, I think that's a real problem in terms of films about this. I mean, I think the early films, obviously Boys in the Hood's a great film, but I think since then, I think audiences have kind of become, they kind of expect that and they kind of want that, and they want the best friend to get killed so that they can scream to the heavens and so forth, and it's just really important not to play into that whole mindset.
Right. Well, before you ask your question, so the original script that you had 15 years ago, was it also Lysistrata and done in that kind of verse style?
Yeah, Yeah, it was completely in verse. It was Lysistrata. In fact, at that time, Jennifer Lopez was going to play Lysistrata.
Wow.
And it wasn't set in Chicago. It was just like just a major city. It wasn't the specifics of a place wasn't there. But yeah, and for me, it was also a statement about how the foreign policy is the domestic policy. That you can't really be a country that loves war. That seems to trickle down into the mindset of everyday citizens as well.
Yeah.
And so I think we see a bit of that every day in the hood.
Mm. Yeah, Charles.
Yeah, well, it's interesting what they say. Violence is as American as apple pie.
Exactly. I think that was H. Brown.
We can get changes to the Voting Rights Act because they say people are voting illegally. Right away, we got to change. But we're not going to make any changes to the gun law. And it's all about money and violence and politics over people. But the thing is, from a film perspective, Kevin, we went to this point in film where we started glamorizing violence. And, I know a lot of people talk about, well, we don't want censorship. But when I was growing up, we had Scarface, we had James Cagney. But those guys, they paid dearly at the end. You couldn't show them as heroes. That was
right.
And in many respects, from a film perspective, as I told Mike, when I was growing up, you couldn't have a married couple sleeping in bed together.
Right.
But some things you do wish there is this morality about the imagery and what the pejorative effects could be from seeing things and glamorizing the wrong thing because the wrong message gets out there and it's getting our people killed.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think, the thing more than anything I think you have to think about when you make films is that, what is how will the image translate, outside of your hands? And there's an element of that you can't control, but you should certainly be thinking about that. You should know a history of film, how we got to this point, about the images that were created in the past and that reflect in images we still see today. You should have a real understanding of that. And a lot of times I think, especially young people now, they're not really taught that in school and very much anyway, unless you go to the university and take a class and those type of things. You're not really going to know those images. And I think that ends up being a bit of a problem.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, I just wanted to get you to chime in. Like before you got on, we were talking about Tarzan, which is in theaters today, and
yeah.
I think Charles and I both agree. It's kind of a weird thing. No matter what you do to sugarcoat it, it's still reinforcing a very white supremacist idea.
Right.
And your films seem to really break down and analyze these things, but they're done on a much smaller scale than, I'm sure the craft service budget for something like Tarzan exceeds the budget for any of the films that you've done to date.
For one day of the craft service budget was the both films put together.
Well, the Tarzan, they had special dietitians and all that stuff. So real quick, what how can independent filmmakers coming from this space, what can we do to sort of keep the fight going?
Well, I think, don't ask permission is the big thing. Mm-hmm. Don't ask permission. Just find a way to make your film. Try to find a way to tell your story. It doesn't matter how many people see the film or what impact the film has. It's really important just to tell your story and to get it out there the best you can. And, film is forever. And so maybe people don't see it today, but hopefully they'll see it tomorrow.
Great words said.
Great.
Yeah, so
that's each one teach one. Beautiful, Kevin.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, Kevin Willmott, the movie is Destination Planet Negro. Seek it out. There's a lot of stuff that, comes to you You know, there's a McDonald's and a Starbucks on every corner. Sometimes to get the things that really are going to nourish you, you got to go out of your way to find them. And Destination Planet Negro is just, you know, one of my favorite movies that I've seen in a while. And it's great to have you back. I mean, and I want to fill in and see all the rest of your stuff, too. You've got an amazing body of work.
You guys take care. I really appreciate it.
And thanks for your time.
Good job, Kevin.
Charles, again, it's the fastest hour in radio. You know, we've got to wrap it up, but you know, we'll be back. Stephanie, Renee, and I will be back next week, and we'll talk more black film. And thank you for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
All right. Okay.
You've been listening to a podcast of Reelblack Radio with Mike D and Steph Renee. Fridays 11 a.m. till noon on 900 AM WURD. And 900 AM WURD.com. Follow us on your favorite social media like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for up-to-date information at 900 AM WURD and at Reelblack.